Hey everyone, welcome to Rethink Reviews on the TYT Network. I am your host, Jonathan Kim. Well, school has started up again, and if you have kids, you're probably wondering something like, what the hell is wrong with the schools and our education system? As you know, America has plummeted in the ranks of industrialized nations when it comes to education. A lot of people are trying to figure out solutions to this, and a lot of those solutions are being sort of pounded out in charter schools. Charter schools got a lot of attention in 2010, largely because of the documentary Waiting for Superman, which was directed by Davis Guggenheim, who also directed An Inconvenient Truth. But a much better movie about charter schools is The Lottery, which is about the Harlem Success Academy and 4 kids and their parents who are trying desperately to get the kids in there because for a lot of them, this is the only chance of an actual promising future. As usual, you can watch The Lottery on Netflix Instant. You can find the link for that in the video information section. So let's watch the review of The Lottery right now.
The achievement gap in America is basically the performance gap based on the skin color or national origin of various children.
All the research shows that poverty is the #1 reason for the achievement gap.
The fact that a middle class or upper middle class child's parents are doing things differently, that they're likely reading to them more, they likely have bigger vocabularies themselves and are just talking to their kids more.
Starting with where children may live and how they may be crowded into an apartment and maybe they're even homeless. I mean, these are all factors that weigh in. Maybe the child doesn't have enough to eat, doesn't get the right medical attention.
I don't think poverty is the reason for the gap. I think if you speak to any parent, they want their child to succeed.
The problem is not the children, or poverty, or race, or anything else. The problem is that we have not set sufficiently high academic expectations and then supported kids in getting them there.
For a long time, when it came to academics, America considered itself the winner by default, and we were usually right. Girls received the same education as boys, religious dogma was barred from the classroom, and the schools were safe and modern. But after decades of complacency, shifting priorities, funding cuts, and teachers' unions run amok, the U.S. now ranks 14th in reading, 17th in science, and 25th in math out of 34 countries, according to a 2010 report by the Program for International Student Assessment. As parents become more desperate for alternatives to failing public schools, charter schools, which are sort of like public-private hybrids, are being flooded with applicants who are chosen randomly for the small number of open slots, which marks the finale of the excellent documentary about the education system, The Lottery. The film does an admirable job of showing both sides of the sometimes heated charter school debate. The Lottery focuses on the Harlem Success Academy, one of America's best-known charters with its unparalleled record of turning underachieving inner-city kids into excellent scholars bound for college. The Academy's teachers and administrators know that their methods are working in closing the achievement gap, and parents familiar with the Academy's work know that their children's futures will be much brighter if they can attend. Leading the opposition to Harlem Success Academy and its plans to expand are the teachers' unions, who feel threatened by charter's implicit criticism of the failed status quo that the unions have largely been responsible for creating. There are also the mostly black residents of Harlem, who feel that charter schools are really a form of gentrification and bristle at the idea of outsiders criticizing their public schools. Caught in the middle, of course, are the children, and The Lottery follows 4 kids and their parents as they learn about what the Academy has to offer, then wait helplessly to see if their names will be chosen in a lottery that determines which students receive the coveted slots. The Lottery was released in 2010, as was the high-profile, much-celebrated Waiting for Superman, which was also about charters and the education system. However, The Lottery strikes me as being the far superior film, for its more nuanced approach to both the causes and solutions to the crisis in our education system. While Superman is largely content to demonize the teachers' union and lionize charters, The Lottery avoids such broad generalizations by focusing very specifically on what's happening with Harlem Success Academy, and allowing both sides to speak so the viewer can decide. Instead of telling horror stories like Superman does about so-called rubber rooms, where fired teachers are sent to do nothing at full pay while lawyers from the unions dispute their cases for years, The Lottery shows how teachers' unions have, over time, become more concerned with protecting teachers than making sure kids get the best education. This shift, along with the political power the teachers' unions have gained through their Democratic allies, has made it so the teachers' unions now dictate the methods by which kids are educated in America, with the comfort and job security of the teachers as the top priority. The Lottery doesn't hold up charters as the end-all be-all solution to America's education woes, but with their higher degree of accountability, the ability to make changes quickly, and the freedom they can give their teachers, charters can at least provide an alternative to schools that are clearly failing to meet the needs of their students. And when a school is clearly succeeding the way the Harlem Success Academy is, there's no reason not to implement their methods elsewhere, even if it rankles the teachers' unions. I'm a pro-union guy, but any organization can lose its way and become corrupted, and unions are no different. And when the casualties of that are our kids and the nation's future, we need to put traditional loyalties aside and ask the hard questions that our children need us to answer. I'm Jonathan Kim for Rethink Reviews. Well, for the next episode of Rethink Reviews, I was going to pick a different documentary, but I'm probably like you. I've been really kind of devastated by the death of Steve Jobs. Many of you know that I'm a pretty anti-corporate guy, and I would never have thought that I would feel so deeply saddened by the death of someone who ran a corporation. But as we know, Steve Jobs is much, much more than that. You know, not a day goes by that I don't touch or use an Apple product. So I wanted to find a movie that talks about Steve Jobs. There weren't any on Netflix Instant that were just about him. And unfortunately, the scripted movie Pirates of Silicon Valley is not available on Netflix Instant. But what is a documentary called The PIXAR Story. It came out in 2007 and basically talks about the history of Pixar. And there would be no Pixar if it wasn't for Steve Jobs. One of the many industries that Steve Jobs changed, not just computers, not just software, but also music and also movies. You can watch The PIXAR Story on Netflix Instant. And of course, send in your questions about Pixar and Steve Jobs' involvement, and we'll have some guests come in to talk about that. So let's take a look right now at a clip from The PIXAR Story.
Computer animation excited me so much. Not excited about what I was seeing, but the potential I saw in all this. I was just amazed by it.
And we started thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we had a background that was moving like Tron did, but we animated the character by hand. It had never been done before, but there's something about John that you kind of get the feeling that that doesn't matter. I mean, if it had never been done before, it doesn't mean it can't be done.
John and Glenn soon got approval to experiment with animation and computerized backgrounds. But at the studio, there was a growing fear that the computer was going to make animators obsolete.
I'd say 95% of the fellows at the studio were saying, well, you never get me to do anything like that. They're ruining everything.